There's Just Something About Kansas City is brought to you in part by the generosity of our friends at the Cockrell Family Foundation and the Sherman Family Foundation. Thank you.
Welcome once again to another episode of There's Just Something About Kansas City, folks. I can't tell you how excited I am. You normally see me dressed up just a little bit more for this, but not today, because we have Kansas City's number one fan, and that is the one and only Heidi Gardner. Heidi, how are you?
I'm good, but I think I share the title of number one fan with you. I mean, you have a podcast about it. I think we're both such big Kansas City fans.
Yeah, I think it is our passion at this time. And you were born and raised here, and then I'm one of those people who moved here and then never left. And so the two of us have, something in common, and that something in common is Kansas City. But welcome. I know you're back in New York. You're getting ready for the 50th year of Saturday Night Live, which is incredible. You are on the cast, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you are the longest running female of all time on Saturday Night Live. I think you've been on more years, I think, than any other female. Or am I wrong about that? If not, it's close.
I'm the longest running female. I'm the most tenured woman there right now. But I think a few other cast members have a few more years on me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll pretend you've been on there longer than anybody.
Okay.
How's that sound?
It's fun.
And how are you? And who is your little friend?
So this is also a Kansas Cityan. This is Tweaky. And I actually found her about 14 years ago down the road from my Mamo and Bampo's house. It's my grandparents. Outside of Big T's barbecue restaurant. She was by the dumpsters.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So you just took her in.
And I love her story because she reminds me a lot of me. I'm like, she's from Kansas City. She moved to LA and now she's in New York. And then this summer, we spent the summer, me and my cats in Kansas City. And so she got to go back home.
Oh gosh, that is really great. And for you in Kansas City, it's funny because of your travels as well, and your road to where you are now is really interesting because, you left Kansas City and you went to the two biggest markets in the country that always considered Kansas City this little flyover town that, everybody talks about. And then all of a sudden, Kansas City explodes on the national scene. And there you are going, I told you.
Truly. I mean, I feel like since I touched down in LA, which was like 2004 or 5, I worked at a salon at the time, and the hairdresser I worked for and her clients were like, what is your deal with Kansas City? Like, they were like, do you miss home? Like, almost, should you just move back there? And I was like, no, it's just the best place, And of course they were like, isn't it just some cow town? All the cliches we've always heard. But over the years, so many of those people have gone to Kansas City, and even before the last couple of years, and we're like, hey, that's a cool city. I would go back. And now it's become, a destination travel spot, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, you have an interesting aspect of it because you were born and raised here. Mm-hmm. So you remember what it was like back, when you were, in the 80s and 90s, and now all of a sudden we're in the 2020s. And how has it changed for you?
My gosh, I do like to think about that because I'm like, what? It's more than just like this love for Kansas City and my hometown. It's more than just like, oh, I was born there, so I have to love it. I'm like, what is the thing that like got deep inside where I'm like consistently talking about it? Because I have other friends that are New York transplants. I'm like, they don't talk about their hometowns as much. But I think that I had, I think I got to see a lot of culture. A lot of the cities had a lot of experiences very young because my parents split when I was 5 and a half, 6. And we had lived with my dad in Raytown. My Mamo and Bampo were kind of down the road in Raytown, but kind of heading more towards Midtown. And then my mom was in Westport. And so I was always bobbing between 3 houses, my brothers and I. And and also having single parents and kind of going on the ride with them, I just feel like I went to so many places. You know, my mom didn't like to cook, so we would have to save money. She would take us to happy hours at the Savoy or the Bristol, you know, and like, or Houston's. And so we got these like little tastes of like city life. And when she had like extra money, or she was a travel agent, so if she had commissions to the Hyatt Hotel, she'd take us to the Peppercorn Duck Club. You know, like I got all these little different tastes of the city. And then if I was with my Mamo, she had a laundromat near Bannister Mall, and so I had that side of town and Raytown, and I don't know, I just feel like I got a lot of experience all over.
Right. Yeah. You experienced the whole culture of the city from a very young age and through your entire life, basically until you went to college and, you know, all that. But talk about growing up a little bit. I know, where did this motivation come from, you know, from you? And I know when you're in high school at Notre Dame de Sion, which is, they call it Sion, of course, here for the people who are not from here. But and then your classmates voted you the student most likely to end up on Saturday Night Live. I mean, you just go, you can't make this stuff up. You know what I mean?
That I still like thank those young women I went to school with. I'm like, I think you guys manifested this for me. You know, having a really storied life and parents that I consider to be really good character archetypes, and also their communities. I think I just had a lot of material to always pull from, you know, like my parents' friend groups. I could see like, oh, that, you know, I want to be that lady, you know, and I would impersonate her in my room. You know, my mom had like an amazing closet, like full of like so many amazing, you know, dresses and hats and costume jewelry. And I was able to like, you know, explore being a woman that way. And then my dad was a limo driver and bartender. So like sometimes he would take me to school in a limo, and like he might have a client in the back. And so I just feel like I got to see a lot of people and meet a lot of people. And so kind of just started developing material as a young kid, just because I think I had an adventurous life with parents like that. But I really think, you know, I had an older brother and a younger brother, and we just loved movies, TV, pop culture, sports. And so I was always just interested in the arts. I don't even know if I knew that's what it was called, but I just kind of thought I would always be a kid who was like quoting movies and making my friends laugh. You know, I definitely didn't see it as a career, because I think I even, you know, I fell into the cliche of just thinking Kansas City was like a flyover town. You know, I was like, well, people who do that sort of stuff are in movies, they're on the coasts and there's a path, or, you know, or I just figured like they have money, or they were like child actors, you know? So it was definitely not on my radar. I just loved all those things.
Yeah. And you did, though, you did certain things in high school or whatever, that you're into plays. I'm assuming you did improv for the high school and had some fun with it, even if you're in the lunchroom. Okay. Just entertaining your classmates, but you had that in you, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew I was funny when I felt comfortable and felt, I guess now I know the words for it, but felt safe. Like if I already knew like people liked me or they got me, I could really start to expand on that more. But I actually didn't do theater. I tried out for a play my freshman year of high school and didn't get it, and just kind of, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not an actor, so I get why I didn't get it. But I would do things like the school assemblies. I might like host those, you know, or I feel like just slowly word would start spreading, even from the upperclassmen. Like, oh, that sophomore girl, Heidi, she's funny, you know, like she'll like impersonate someone from Dumb and Dumber, and she's, you know, like, and so slowly, like it's always been, hopefully I can do it on my own now, but it's always been other people that I felt like gave me that push, like their belief in me then I was like, oh, okay, I can do a skit in the talent show, or, you know, host this like freshman assembly or something.
Right. So when you went to college, you went to KU first, then you went to MU. I'm sure you went to every class every day, right? I mean, you're one of those perfect students.
It's so weird.
There was never a wheel or any of those places involved in your secondary education, right?
No. I mean, honestly, I wish there was more of the wheel or so. I don't know what, you know what I did when I got to KU is I immediately got 2 jobs. Like my mom was always someone that had just multiple jobs. You know, she was trying to put her kids through private school. So it was like, I showed up to Lawrence and I was like, I got a job at Steak and Shake during the day shift. And then I got a shift at Southwind 12 movie theaters for the night shift. And I was kind of like, when am I going to class? It was like, so that's actually why I didn't show up to many classes. I was
okay.
Yeah.
And of course you worked at the Tivoli too when you were younger.
Yes.
You know, like through your high school days. So, and that started all this. So you always end up in a movie theater somehow. And then you went to Missouri. You went to University of Missouri for a while, correct?
Yeah. I went for half a semester. Again, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, I dabbled in the film program at KU, but it didn't feel right. I loved movies, but I was taking, you know, their core classes, which was like lighting design or costume design. I was like, this is all cool for one class, but I don't want to pursue this. So I went to MU and I signed up for their design department. And I was like, well, this takes a lot of math and measurements. And I didn't feel great about that. And so I just was really confused. I was like, I don't know where I fit in or what I'm supposed to do. And at the time, I just had a friend who asked me to cut her hair, and I did a good job. And then the rest of my other broke college friends asked me to cut their hair. And I was like, all right, maybe I should drop out of school and do hair. But I had a little bit of shame or a stigma about like being the only one of my friends to drop out of school. So I was like, maybe if I say I'm going to drop out of school to do hair in LA, that will sound more legit. So that is what eventually just took me to LA. It was
right.
Almost,
but that is a huge, I mean, that's a huge decision. I mean, you had to, number one, you had to save up, I'm sure, to do that. And, you know, broke college students aren't the greatest at paying or tipping or whatever. So you probably made a lot of sacrifices in order to accumulate at least a base to get you to LA. And then did you have a job at cutting hair before you got there? Or did you just start going around from salon to salon? And you're thinking maybe in your mind, now I'm not going to think for you, you can tell me, but maybe I can be the hairstylist for the stars here in Los Angeles. Who knows?
Yeah, that was kind of what I thought. Maybe I'll end up working on a film set. And then I kind of figured that will make sense to like people back home. Like, oh, this girl always like loved movies and TV, and now she's like doing hair of the stars. But I did work all summer before I moved to LA. But I was just not good at saving. I cocktail waitress at the Bulldog. My dad was managing down there. You know, I saved a few $100s, but certainly not enough to pay for an apartment in LA. It just so happens that my amazing older brother, Justin, who you had as a guest on the show, he gave me a card on my birthday that summer that said, that was July 27th, and it said, open me in LA. And I was like, oh, this is going to be like concert tickets to like a great show once I live in LA. And the morning I left for LA, which was like, I remember September 17th, I was in the airport and I was really sad just to have said goodbye to everyone. I was crying. And I saw that envelope in my backpack and I was like, well, I don't know. I'll be in LA in 3.5 hours. I can open it now. So I opened it and it was a card with a check in it with the date, July 27th. And then the amount was the year that I was born. So $1,983. And that was a lifesaver. Like, I definitely, it was just like this angel, my brother, like came in and saved me, because I was like, I'm going to show up to LA. I'm not going to even have the money to pay my roommate the first month rent. And then suddenly, you know, that's what older brothers do. So yeah, that's how that went. And then yeah, I did. I just thought I had met Paul Rudd. I had seen him out over a Thanksgiving break at Harley's in Westport. And my friends and I had gone up to him and we're like, we love Wet Hot American Summer. We think you're the funniest, the best. And, you know, we got to talking to him and his wife. And I told him, you know, I'm, you know, moving to LA. I'm thinking about doing hair. I'm not sure, like, da 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 da. And he was actually really nice, gave me his contact, and even tried to get me a job on the 40-Year-Old Virgin. But I wasn't in the union at the time, so I couldn't do it. And so that's where I answered an ad on Craigslist to just wash hair at a shampoo at a salon. And then from there, like, got my license to do hair.
Yeah, right. And you spent a long time doing that. I mean, and as you were doing it, as you were cutting hair and it was getting more and more, did you end up in a studio somewhere, or did you just stay at that salon and all of a sudden you decide, you know, I'm really going to try this actress thing?
Yeah, I had an amazing boss, you know, one of my best friends in the world, Deanna. And I assisted her at the salon for a few years, and I felt like a good assistant. You know, I knew her clients really liked me. I thought she needed me, you know, I just knew where to fill in and make her life easier. And like I said, it's always been those other people to like give me that push. You know, she told me, like, you have to go out on your own as a hairstylist now. Like, you can't always assist me. And so I was like, she's like, you know, you can start taking your own clients. So I kept working with her and taking my own clients. And a few years into working there, I made a friend who was performing at the Groundlings Theater in LA and asked me to come see her show. And I went to see the show, and I just thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I'd definitely heard of the Groundlings before. But I just thought, like, this will be a great thing to take, like, out-of-towners to when they come visit me, is to go see the Groundlings. It's like a mini SNL. And she was like, well, I'm glad that you liked it so much, but I also wanted you to see it because I think you should take classes here. I think you should do this. And I was just like, I'm not an actor. But, you know, I told my brother Justin about it. I told a couple other loved ones, like, I have this friend that thinks I'd be good at improv and sketch. And Justin, again, was like, I have been waiting for you to say this your entire life. I will pay for your first classes. Like, again, big brother energy. And so I just started doing that as a hobby. I just really loved it. I didn't have any plan. And then at a certain point, as I was just kind of, you know, leveling up at that theater and ended up becoming a main company member, it was my boss at the salon, Deanna, who said to me, she's like, I'm not firing you, but you don't belong here.
I'm telling you to leave.
Yeah. And I was like, but, you know, I pay rent. I know that people depend on that, you know? And she was like, we'll be fine. Like, this is what you're meant to do. So.
Wow, that is just incredible. And I know the Groundlings, and I'm sure they're now touting you as one of their alums, but also Melissa McCarthy, Will Forte, Will Ferrell, Kristen Wiig. I mean, they're the line of people from the Groundlings, which is, you know, some people, and I think people who are outside the movie industry or the TV industry or whatever, I think these people just sort of appear. And then they're on, and you figured that was boom, and they're gone or whatever. But you don't understand their backstories and how hard they had to work. And some of the things that if it wouldn't have happened, if your brother wouldn't have given you that $1,983 check or then paid for your first couple of improv lessons at the Groundlings, this would have never happened.
Yeah, no, it's a truly blessed path. Even 6 months into being in LA, or maybe 3 months, I came home for Christmas break and I went to work at the Bulldog to just make some extra money to take back to LA with me. And I was 21 at the time, and I got comfortable even in those couple months. I was just like, you know what? Like, I did LA for 2.5 months. I did it. I could just stay here. And I remember I said that to Justin, like,
oh boy,
I think I'll just work at the Bulldog. And he was like, absolutely not. You are getting back out there. So yeah, I think about that all the time. And I try to remind myself that, like, now where I'm at and, things I want to do, I'm like, remember, like, it's okay to now self-motivate. Like, a lot of other people lifted you up. They were your guardian angels. They pushed you. Like, remember that you can do that on your own now,
Right. I think you always had the motivation. I think it was the confidence to put it into motion, I think, that you were looking for when you got the pushes and you got the backing of other people that and love, that weren't just feeding you hot air. They were, and they would have been the first to tell you, this is not for you. Yeah. Okay, just come on back to Kansas City and forget about it. Yeah. Yeah. So the transition, and you're doing the Groundlings, you do the Sunday Company, of course, as well. And then that's at 2014 or thereabouts. And then all of a sudden, how does the SNL thing come into play for you? Who contacted who? How did that all happen between 14 and 17?
Well, it was interesting. When I got into Sunday Company in 2014, I had been in it for about 6 months, and they told us actually that SNL, some of their producers, were going to come see some of us for a showcase. And I remember thinking that was the biggest deal in the world, trying to act like it wasn't that big of a deal, because I was also a hairdresser and I'm just kind of fell into comedy. We'll see. But they came, they checked us all out. None of us got callbacks, anything. And I was like, oh, well, okay. I will not be on SNL. And inside, internally, I really wanted it, but it didn't happen. And then I went through the Sunday Company for a year. I made it into the main company in like 2015, was in the main company for a little over a year. And then SNL was coming back over the summer of 2017 and asked to see me along with some of the current Sunday Company members. And it was so cool I hope I was aware of this at the time. If not, I sure am now. But had I gotten SNL in 2014, I wouldn't have been ready. Like, I had just gotten into the Sunday Company. I was just learning how to produce sketches, how to, and produce them on a rapid level, character after character. Like, so it's so lucky for me that I got time to incubate in the Sunday Company and then perform in the main company and just get all these reps under my belt and start to learn my taste and my point of view, and also just have, an arsenal at that point of characters and failures and just experience. And so when SNL came in 2017 and they wanted to see me showcase, I really wanted it, and I wanted to be undeniable. And so they came to the Groundlings. They saw us perform. I felt, big sports fan. I felt like, okay, I got home field advantage. This is cool. It was a very loving crowd of people that came to the Groundlings anyways, that knew me. And so I performed 12 characters in that. Then they got in touch with my manager, said they wanted to see me test in New York. And they were like, she can just basically do what she did at the Groundlings. That was great. So I went out, I did that. I came back to LA. About a week later, I heard they wanted me to come back. But this time I had to do a completely different set. And I was like, oh my God, I just gave you like all my starters. Like, that was my A team. That was the best I had. But that's also where just the experience came into play, because I was like, oh, I've been doing this for so long now that I've tried out so many sketches at the Groundlings, so many that failed, but I could like look back and be like, but there was a character in that sketch that actually the audience reacted to. I know they liked that character. They didn't like the sketch. Or that one beat in that sketch, I could like edit it and parse it down. Like, there's a good joke in there that I can, and character I can do for the audition. So I always say my second SNL audition was like my bench players got to like come out and play.
There It was like Sunday baseball.
Yeah.
And all the guys on the bench get on to play after that.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is too, from way back in your childhood now, knowing your mom's friends, your dad's friends, your brother's friends, being able to imitate and do all that, and then knowing what Saturday Night Live does, they don't want a whole lot of repetition. They want new all the time, and they have to turn it week after week after week. So I think that was part of their playing. Say, can she turn these things? Can she help us develop these characters week in, week out from her own standpoint? And I think that was huge for what you did. They were looking for somebody just like you.
Yeah, I even recently, with the 50th coming up, I was doing an interview recently where they showed me my SNL audition, which I never thought I would, like, it's on the server at work. Like, I could pull up my audition at any time and watch it, but I've just never wanted to do that. I've just been like, oh, that is for an archive. I'm a little too just like self-conscious to see that. That kind of took me off guard, and I watched it, and I was so shocked by just seeing myself 7 years ago. Like, there were a lot of things about me that I'm just like different. And I feel like, I look like a baby, and most of all, I can't believe that I had the guts to do that. I was like, this is scary. This is scaring me right now for her, like the pressure. And then also, like you're saying, they want to see if I can turn over new material in a week. And it's like, I do think you could see that, and that I had a lot of characters, but I also watched it and I thought, like, oh, they really took a chance too. Like, there were a lot of things that hit, and I thought, like, oh, that's really funny. But after doing this for a while, I was like a coach watching it, where I was like, Heidi, oh my God, you should have projected more there, or, you should have hit that joke harder. And I felt a lot of gratitude watching that, because I was like, oh, I definitely wasn't fully cooked.
Right.
They really, and that's what they do. They're looking for like young talent that, still has a lot to learn. And I definitely did.
Yeah. And I think the other thing for you too, I don't think you ever felt, okay, I made it. Yeah, I'm here. Okay. So what are you going to do for me? You've always talked about the fact that before you broke character for the first time, that if you ever broke character, you were the straight person in the skit most of the time. That if I break character, they're going to fire me. I mean, they're just going to go, okay, this has been a great year, but you're done. And I think that's always been a little bit of the motivation in the back of your mind. You've never taken this one day for granted.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, sometimes I think it's the Midwesterner in me, the like people pleaser, that just the girl that went out and got 2 jobs first thing once she got to college, rather than getting her class.
Go to school.
Just like, I know I have to work, and I have to work hard, and I have to earn this, and nothing is given. And, my mom, my mama, my dad, my bampo, all of them, I watched them be survivors, like just fighting for all of it. And so, yeah, I don't think I take it for granted. I think, one thing that I like to keep in check now that I've been there for a while is I think, you're being a performer, working around so many other performers. I see like how sensitive we are, how quickly our egos can get bruised. And what I like to keep in check is my ego, because it's like sometimes you want your sketch to work, it's like, why didn't I get to like shoot the ball this time? Like, why and like to just really to not take for granted also that I'm part of a team, and there's some weeks where I am not going to shoot the winning shot, but I do have to be there to like defend and support and pass the ball and all of that. That's been a big thing, because I think we all think we're like comedic geniuses there, but it's not a one-person show, and there's also a host.
Yeah, right. And talking about host, okay, and we'll go back a little bit about the crazy skit with Ryan Gosling and Mikey Day here in a second. But
Yeah.
to talk about host, one of your premier host of all time for you, I'm sure, was when Travis Kelce ended up on Saturday Night Live. That had to be, because I know what a big sports fan you are, and you carry Kansas City Chiefs, Royals, Sporting, KC Current. You carry them with you wherever you go.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably cry talking about it because the Chiefs have been, Kansas City sports in general, and also like thank you to you, Frank, for like one of the biggest loves of my life is sports, and I learned it at a young age, and you were one of the people who got me excited about it, and that I remember my family staying up to watch and talk about it. Like, we wanted your take, we wanted to know. And so this is all to say, from being like a 5-year-old little girl, like going down to Houston's with my mom trying to get Chiefs autographs after the game, to getting to be on this amazing show, SNL, and starting to see the Chiefs rise and see that, meet Travis Kelce a couple times and, see him on appearances and being like, that guy is funny and he's got a lot of charisma, and, on and off the field, and, realizing, every couple of years we have like an athlete host. I think I just want to start like dropping this nugget to Lorne and the producers, like, hey, there's this like Chiefs player, Travis Kelce, and the Chiefs are getting really good, and I think you should keep an eye out for him. And so kind of, dropping the seeds. And then that season, I remember Lorne saying to me, I'm like, the Chiefs are having a good season, and I think you saw like Travis Kelce on that appearance. Like, he's funny, huh? And he's like, yeah, I think he could host, but, he has to win the Super Bowl. And I was like,
is that all?
It's like so much to ask. And it's funny, we're all friends at work, but even some of like my favorite, bookers in the talent department were like starting to be like, if they don't win the Super Bowl, we might ask Joe Burrow or something, just like, and I was like, why are you guys being so mean to me? I just want my favorite Chief to host. But anyhow, when it all happened and it all came to be, and it's the night of the show, and I've got both my brothers there, my sister-in-law, some of my best friends from Kansas City. I ordered barbecue. I had a tailgate in my dressing room. And I really was like, Heidi, this is this moment right now. Even if you're not in the show at all, a Kansas City Chief is hosting SNL. While you're on SNL, your family and your friends are here. There's barbecue in your dressing room. Like, we're going to have the best night of our lives. And this is all while I'm in makeup getting ready for the show. And then I start getting texts from my brother, my best friend, who are in my dressing room, and they're like, oh my God, Travis and his brother Jason are in the dressing room eating barbecue too. And I was like, it's just like, there's no world that I could ever think that was possible. Just like such a beautiful kismet special moment where a Kansas City Chief hosted SNL and tailgated before the show. I bet no other host has ever tailgated.
Yeah, and the fact that he did it, and he did it so well, and since that time, he and his brother, of course, they've exploded. Travis Kelce has done more commercials almost than you are. Okay, he is on tons of commercials. Their podcast's great. He's doing that horror series, whatever that thing is, and he's doing everything. And so they have to come back to you and say, "Do you have anybody else you want on, Heidi? Just let us know who's next." Who would be?
Maybe we get Bobby Witt in there. I mean,
there you go. Yeah. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, even, whatever. Yeah, that'd be just incredible. Is there someone, maybe outside of the sports people, that you would love to see as a guest host of Saturday Night Live that you haven't met, that you think should be on there, and that you'd just love to meet?
I love Catherine O'Hara. I think that she would be such a great host. That's one that I would love to see. I mean, this is just from like my teen days, but I just think it'd be really cool to see Leonardo DiCaprio host. He's just such an incredible actor. And I find that's obvious, but I find that really good actors are also great hosts. Like they don't push the comedy. They just know how to play it. And it comes off really funny. So I think he'd be amazing. And then, I mean, it's sports, but I really want LeBron James to host again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. You know, what is he's doing? Yeah, that's right. He's doing basketball. But you're right. He'd be very good.
Yeah.
I think he'd be good too. Shaq would be great as well.
Yeah. So, or even I was kind of thinking coming off of the Olympics, I was like Simone Biles.
Oh,
like
yes. Right.
Becky. That would be cool.
Okay. Before we get to your travels around the world and working for NBC is not a bad gig. Yeah. Okay. Not a bad gig at all. Let's go back to the April 13th, 24. Okay. We got the Beavis and Butthead skit with Ryan Gosling and Mikey Day. And you've always prided yourself, in fact, they can't crack me up. They try all the time. It's not going to happen. Go through what happened prior to then doing the skit. Okay. Talk about the rehearsal first for that skit.
Yeah. You know, Wednesday we come in, we read it at table read. It's a sketch that had been put up almost 6 years prior, like went to dress rehearsal. I was in it, but I wasn't in the moderator part. I knew that Mikey and the writer Streeter were bringing it back for this Ryan Gosling show. They had me do the moderator part. I was like, oh, cool. Like happy to do the straight man, like, you know, supportive part of the sketch. And it went well at the table read. And it's a sketch that's like Mikey and Streeter, those two, it's like one of their white whales. They've been wanting to get it on the show forever. So it's like, cool, it got in the show. And then, you know, we rehearse it on like blocking on Thursday. And, you know, it's really funny, but I didn't. And so like, there are things about it that were making me laugh, but certainly when our first rehearsal, no one was in hair or makeup. You know, we're just kind of going through the blocking of it, where we stand, where we sit. And then, and, you know, just like a little, you know, context, you know, I've known Mikey for years now, a little bit before I got on SNL, but definitely has become just an amazing friend of mine since. And I would say, like, you know, I have two brothers. He reminds me of like, it's a brother relationship. We sit next to each other at the table read. He makes me laugh. He messes with me. Like, he's always like saying something in my ear. And I've got that energy of like, Mikey, shut up. We're like doing table read. Like, shut up. You're distracting me. We're going to get in trouble. Like, it's just like brother energy. And so then we get to Saturday and we rehearse all the sketches once in costume before the dress rehearsal. And Mikey had the wig on. So when we rehearsed it and I looked back, I mean, I did chuckle because I was like, he looked stupid. But I was just like, you know, it's like seeing your brother in a mask and you're just like, oh my God, you look like an idiot. Just, ugh. So I laughed, but I just didn't think anything of it. And then dress rehearsal comes around and we're doing the sketch and I look back and then he's in the wig and he's in, you know, pretty much full makeup and he looked so ridiculous and stupid. And I significantly laughed and I was kind of shocked at that. And that was just dress rehearsal. And I was, I'm like, oh my God, Mikey looks so dumb. And it took me out of the sketch because it felt like, you know, like just messing around with my brothers and just being like, shut, you know, just them annoying me. And so I was annoyed that I laughed and he had to look like that in the sketch, but I was like annoyed at him for looking like that. Cause I was like, oh my God, it made me laugh. So after dress rehearsal, I went back to my dressing room and I was like, you cannot laugh like that. Cause I just felt like I wasted a lot of time in the sketch. And so I kept on thinking, I was like, okay, for the live show, just remember what Mikey looked like. I kept trying to like think of his face so that like, I'm like, just get your giggles out now, get your giggles out. And then the live show happened and I look back and he just, it almost is like he doesn't spike the camera, but he spikes me. He just like gives me this look, and the wig and the makeup were more intense for sure than dress rehearsal. And I just lost it. Like,
Sir.
and yeah, it's like I'm turning away, and it's like in school when you would like tell someone like brick wall. It's like, so like, I don't remember exactly what I was thinking about that moment, but it really felt like, and when I watch it back, I'm like, Mikey, stop it. Like, I'm trying to do a job and you are making it impossible to do that. Like, that I think is my energy. And yeah, when I got off stage, I kind of saw a few people and they were laughing, but I was a little in my head, and I went back to my dressing room. I had some guests there, like some of my friends, and I was like, was that okay? Like, and they were like, what are you talking about? It was so funny. I was like, yeah, but I laughed for a long time, and I was scared until I saw Lorne a couple sketches later. I walked out for a sketch and he smiled at me like, wasn't that funny? And so I was like, okay, I think I'm okay. I think I still have a job.
Yeah.
Not that people get fired for that, but this is the Midwesterner in me. Is like, I'm not perfect, and so I'll get in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and then after the 24 season, I guess everybody saw the end and the whole thing, and they saw you crying. Okay, and they thought, everybody all of a sudden speculates, oh my gosh, is she not coming back for next year for the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live? Well, what happened? Where was the blowback from that? I'm sure you got all kinds of emails and texts and everybody else. Are you coming back? Are you coming back?
Yeah, I mean, every so often I'll get, people. It's sweet. Like, people will come up to me on the street just to say, like, they're a fan or they love the show, and people are always like, are you coming back? Like, it's a sensitive thing or something. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh yeah, like, not a question for me right now. I love my job. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And then I'm just curious, is it a 1 year to year contract, or do you have a 5-year contract, or do you have longer term contract with Saturday Night Live?
Yeah. When you first get on the show, you give them like a significant amount of years that can like change throughout. It's all contractual. Yeah. It's flux.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. And then the other big thing, for you is you finally kicked the door down with that all male club on the Big Slick. Okay. It's about time they put a woman on that panel in Big Slick. Those guys, we've had enough of them. We need a little diversity here. So getting to Big Slick. And of course they're all Kansas Cityans. You're all Kansas Cityans, and it's just incredible the amount of talent we have here. And then just to look at that panel and just go, my gosh, what a group of people, and what a great thing they're doing for Kansas City. Talk about the Big Slick for you.
I mean, I still say it's getting asked to be one of the hosts of the Big Slick is the greatest honor of my life. It was something I admired when I heard about it. It was a random, like, insular dream that I was like, this was before I think I'd even taken an improv class. I was like, oh my gosh, if those guys like ever like add a woman to the hosts from Kansas City, like a funny woman, I hope it's me. But I remember being like, but why would it be me? They probably wouldn't pick a hairdresser in LA. Like, I don't have the platform for this. I don't know what you're thinking, Heidi. But it was definitely on my radar. And, also being from Kansas City, I think we all know how important Children's Mercy has always been to our city. It's something that just has been ever present, knowing the work that they do. So getting now to, I feel like I, saw it from afar before, and now getting to be a part of this charity, the Big Slick, and meet the administration, meet the nurses, the staff, the kids at Children's Mercy. It is access to a world that I am so grateful for, to learn, to help, to be there for, to, witness all of this. It's just such an honor. And I also think we're just so lucky, again, this like certain time in our city right now where, yeah, we get to do this amazing charity event that, was spearheaded by, at first, these amazing 5 guys who brought all of their friends and all of this, kind of acclaim into Kansas City, put on this big show, get the city excited. And then we have a football team of world champions now who also show up to be a part of this, like Mahomes and Kelce were there throwing passes to each other, like during the show. I'm like, the show is already incredible. Like, look at the 55 guests we brought in from entertainment all over the world. And then we have the world champions at our show too. It's like, for what we want to do for Children's Mercy, I find it so lucky, what our city is providing for us right now.
Yeah, right. And I think sometimes when we get sad or depressed or low or whatever, you have that experience to think back on and just see those kids, see how you light up their lives. I mean, I think that's important.
100%. I feel like I'm always writing down quotes from the children that I meet, experiences, and really getting to be vulnerable and talk to their parents or siblings about what it's like to have a young child in the hospital, what their day-to-day looks like, how they find their hope, their joy. And I think before being a part of the Big Slick, I don't know, I never want to ruffle feathers or cause discomfort. I think it might have been hard for me to ask those tough questions, but now having a couple years under my belt as a host and even as a guest of the Big Slick, seeing some of the same families and building a relationship with them, I want to know them more and see them and hear their stories. And I think they need to be heard. And so that has been a really special thing that's happened through all of it too.
Yeah, right. And it's about Kansas City. That's why we do this. But before we talk about Kansas City, and then I'll let you go. You've been just terrific with your time. The fact that is there something you want to do? Is there something like, you were the hairstylist in a salon washing people's hair and you're dreaming about doing X? Maybe it was the improv. Maybe it was getting Saturday Night Live. Is there something now that you've accomplished those things that you want to do? Maybe dramatic actress, Broadway, any of those types of things. I know you also have a game show coming up here over the Thanksgiving weekend. So we can talk about that in a second as well. But is there something else you want to do?
I definitely, the more I do this, I do think as far as my talents go, I think I was put here to play characters. That's where I feel the most free. That's where I'm a Leo. That's where I feel like a lion. And I love to write. And so I definitely, want to have a TV show or a movie that lets me do both of that, create a show and a world, and, just let me go to town, create a world that I can just soar in would be the dream. So I definitely would like to do that. I've become very open in the past couple of years to the unexpected. I think even being on SNL or being where I'm at right now was very unexpected from what I was doing career-wise before. So I do like to stay open. Like sometimes I'll think, okay, well, I'm an actor, and so I need to find roles in movies or TV shows. But like what you're talking about, I was a judge on a show that took place in Kansas City. Actually, we shot it last spring for Magnolia and Max, called Second Chance Stage. And it's all about people getting a second chance at pursuing their dreams. And it was definitely something I was a little nervous about, because I was like, well, I don't know that I can judge people. I can certainly be supportive and like a cheerleader, but I don't know that I'm going to be a Simon Cowell mean judge. But I took it because I thought it sounded like a cool, heartwarming show, and it was in Kansas City, and I like when there's projects in Kansas City. And it ended up being one of the best experiences of my life. Again, on like with the Big Slick, on a humanity level, on a vulnerability level, like seeing people take the stage and take their moment, and getting a second chance at something, like the bravery, like knowing how long it took them to get there, all of those things. I was like, I can't believe I get to witness this. So while I want to star in a TV show or a movie that I create, I also want to stay open to things like that come along that, really fill up my heart and my connection to people. Because that also, I love comedy. It's what I always want to do. I love acting. Drama sounds awesome too, but I do know that when I have a good connection with someone, or, even make a kid laugh, or, I just had a moment in my apartment building where I smiled at probably an 8-year-old in the elevator. And I was like, he's 8, like, he's probably like, who's that lady? And when he got off the elevator, he was like, have a good night. And I was like, I can't believe an 8-year-old just like was so sweet to me. Like, it made my night. I was like, I just connected with him, like, just because I was vulnerable to like smile at him, even though I was like, he doesn't care. Like, he told me to have a good night, and I'm going to have a good night. Like, those moments, like, I feel them lift me up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that lifts you up, I know we talked about you were at the Olympics, NBC, of course, that made it very, very nice to go to Paris. You're at opening night for the NFL, just happens to be your Chiefs playing an opening night football game against the Baltimore Ravens. And I think I'll go out and bang the drum a little bit. I think I'll go have some fun. You've done that. But this city where you were born and raised and were brought up, and all the great things that you are because of this place. Talk about Kansas City and just give us your thoughts on this place.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no BS on my end. Right before I got on to talk to you, Frank, I was Google searching. I was basically restocking all my barbecue sauces. I like looked in my pantry and I'm like, I've got like Arthur Bryant's hot and spicy. I do not have any Gates right now. I do not have any LCs. I need to get some Joes because I used that last weekend. Like, I want it to be on display in my home. I want people to know, I've got a 69 Chiefs poster on the wall. It's just something that it's like undeniably inside and outside of me that, that I guess I have to say, like, I think about every day. There's just a connection to home for me and the people. And I've spent the last 2 summers there, and that's been really special and healing for me. Like, I loved LA. I love living in New York, but there's something about being in Kansas City in the summer, going to my friends' kids' little league games. The trees are so green, swimming pools, just driving down Ward Parkway with the windows rolled down. It's in my heart. So, and I just think, like I said, my parents and the people they knew and the experiences I had, they've completely colored the person I am. And I think one thing that sometimes people are surprised about me, maybe when I'm in a work situation, or, people have just been like, oh, you're just very normal, or you're nice. I'm like, yeah, because I think I still go home a lot. And if I have an ego, I get it checked at the door, like, hanging out with my brothers or my best friends from high school are still some of my best friends. And I'm going to the same places, and I want to feel like that same girl or that same woman in those places I was. I don't want that to change.
Yeah. And I think, there's a great description you gave. We were at the Big Slick press conference there, and about, I guess, one woman from Saturday Night Live, and forgive me, I forget her name. She was there last year or the year before. And then she came up to you and said, can I come back? I want to come back. And describe what she said to you about Kansas City.
So my friend, she's an amazing actress and writer, Rashida Olewala, and she came to the Big Slick, and kind of immediately she had a bag of Topsies with her when she said this. She was like, looking around, this was day one for her in Kansas City. She was like, I like it here. Kansas City feels like one big hug. And I was like, oh my God, like that's how I feel. That's how I think we all feel that live here. And I love that you felt it like you've been here for 2 hours. You're just in the food court of Crown Center with your Topsies and you're already feeling it. So I feel like that. I had a friend who came in town for my birthday to Kansas City this summer. And I saw him last night and he was like, oh my God. He was like, your birthday was so much fun. Also, like, I love Kansas City. And I was like, you do? And he was like, yeah, I feel like, he's like, it's just so warm. The coffee shops are so cool. He was like, I kind of think it's like what Brooklyn's trying to be. And I was like, I've never heard someone diss Brooklyn, like throw Brooklyn under the bus for Kansas City, but I'll take it. They're both great, but like, that's very cool.
Yeah, I would definitely throw Brooklyn and under the bus for Kansas City. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, all I want to say now is just thanks for doing this. I know how your schedule is just absolutely insane. For taking the time out. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to Kansas City, and we give a great big hug.
Oh yeah, thank you, Frank.
Thanks. And that's why there's just something about Kansas City. Thanks, Heidi.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of documenting the stories that have built our city to inspire and educate generations to come. Our work is made possible by the generous support of local partners such as the Cockrell Family Foundation and the Sherman Family Foundation. For more information about how you can help us share these stories, visit our website at somethingaboutKC.org. Thank you.